With so many students around the world doing online or hybrid classes, it can be tricky sometimes and even overwhelming just to focus on college due to the current situation. And to be honest, I felt overwhelmed the minute I resumed my classes online last spring semester. Days would just go by sitting down, glued to my laptop, slowly getting fatigued as I would be doing homework, working on a capstone project, and even studying for exams. Hey guys, if you're new here, my name is Nimal, and I'm a rising sophomore studying computer engineering at Purdue University. And in this video, I'll be providing some tips and tricks and even strategies to successfully prepare you for your next semester of college or university with any kind of instruction you're going through right now, whether it be online, hybrid, or even in person. And as always, I'll be having timestamps linked in the description below, so feel free to skip around if you'd like, and you don't have to watch the entire video. So let's just get started. So my first tip is to know the syllabus ahead of time, and this can be beneficial for a wide variety of reasons. And you can actually do this by going to your school's or your major's website, and if there isn't any information regarding your classes next semester, then email the professor if you have that information. And when you do this, you kind of catalog in your mind the different kinds of topics your course would cover throughout the semester, quarter, or whatever system your university has. And you can know the syllabus by going to your college's website and going to your specific department or major, and then there will be links to each of the courses that you may take in your undergraduate career. And the best way to do that is probably going through your plan of study, or if your college is nice enough, they'll actually have a list of all the undergraduate courses offered. Once you know the syllabus, you can start searching topics online. And a good way to do this is to first go through YouTube videos that explain the concept. And for example, I've been going through a playlist that is helping me learn circuits and a bunch of different rules related to circuits. And that has helped me a lot in understanding the basic fundamental concepts with electrical engineering. And sometimes it's easier to watch a video than to read a book. In addition to videos, you can also rent or buy books that can help you learn the contents themselves. They're much more thorough, and they're also very easy to access, and you don't need internet to use them, which is a big plus if you have a physical copy or a PDF that you can always refer to. And another big plus is that you can use it throughout the semester. So if you have any trouble, you could just rely on these video playlists or even PDFs of your book that you could be using if you run into some problems throughout the semester in terms of content gaps or understanding. But when you do this revision phase during the period before school starts, just take notes just to keep track of your learning. And one way this is important is if you do this, then you will have a catalog of everything you've learned up to that point. And if you happen to learn it by the time you go to your classes, you can refer back to your notes and see what you've missed or what you could have added to your notes in the lecture. But the point of taking these notes before your classes start is to gauge a bare minimum understanding of the courses you're about to take next semester, but not to be a complete expert on the subject beforehand. In addition, it also primes your brain for getting ready for your next semester of courses, especially if you're going to an intensive one. In addition to taking notes and getting familiar with concepts, ask your friends who have taken the course before you just to see the general opinion about it. When you do so, it tells you how hard the course can be and how hard you would actually need to study for it the next semester, and what to expect from a professor. If you don't know any immediate friends who have taken the course before you can always go to your school subreddit and search the class you're looking for just to see the general opinion on it. And this can be a useful tool for a wide variety of reasons. One, you can see the general opinion pretty easily, but at the same time, you should probably take it with a grain of salt as everybody's experiences might be different. Another good avenue is rate my professors. This is more so on whether your professor is good or not, and these also can be fairly accurate, but again, like Reddit, shouldn't be taken with a grain of salt. And another thing to note is if your professor is new, then obviously there wouldn't be any reviews for them, so you really don't know unless you take the course in person or online. My next tip is to create a habit or routine. And this tip is very, very important for people who are doing online classes this semester. So if you haven't already, you should be using Google Calendar by now, or if you haven't, it's very helpful in the long run. And once you know your schedule, just import that into your GCal or iCal, whichever one you use. And then if you're in person or hybrid, you can physically map out your classes by walking the day or two before your classes start, just to get a general sense of where your classes are. Another tip that I've gotten over my academic years is treat school like a 9-to-5 job. And I really like this quote because I remember my high school physics teacher saying that the most important thing he learned in college was to actually treat it like a job. And this technique is really effective for both online and hybrid students. So these are the steps to do it. So you want to wake up at a reasonable time before your first class starts. And it doesn't have to be 5 a.m., but if your class starts at 7:30, then you might not have a choice. But the period before your classes start, you should use that to sort of prime or gauge your brain to do some deep work. You could be doing that in a wide variety of things, like working on your homework that should have been due today, or coding for a project that you need to do, or even reading a book or just working out. Anything that helps you to get ready in the morning. So by the time when your first class starts, you have built the momentum to stay in that work mode. And this is the time where you need to be stayed focused the most. Along with attending classes and learning the material, be sure to have breaks in between. And this is very important for online students. Otherwise, you'll not have the momentum to carry on. So you'll want that time to step from the recorded lecture and just think about something else. This might be a great time to eat or just walk around your house if there are no other options available for you. Just take periodic breaks and get back in the game. So when you take breaks and still have the momentum going, it will ideally fizzle out at the end of the day or even towards it. So when you've reached the end of your studies or classes around early to mid-evening, just try to wrap up everything and be done for the day. And when you're done with your work or studies, you can use this time to relax by just taking a walk, hanging out with family, even doing chores, something non-academic related, just to keep your mind at ease. Now, obviously, you may not have the luxury of ending at 5 or 7 or even 8 due to pending projects that you may have to do. I mean, those things are inevitable, but in the general flow of things, you should try to treat school like a 9-to-5 job. By having a routine, it naturally should be really reliable and worthwhile. And by doing so, we need to implement something like the Pareto principle. This is also called the 80-20 rule in the business world, and it can also be applied to academics as well. So 20% of the content you learn in a lecture or class setting will determine 80% of your results in the form of homework, quizzes, and exams, which seems to be the case for many university students around the world. When you study, try to aim for studying a week's pace over the course of the semester instead of cramming. And doing so will be much more effective in the long run since there will be less material to review initially. In addition, doing such will prevent you from cramming regularly, as many of us are super familiar with and don't want to do. We can have an awesome routine and take the Pareto principle one step further by adding this studying technique, which is called active recall and spaced repetition. And just an overall review of active recall is that it's a technique that makes you understand a topic by quizzing yourself to see if you understand that material. The spaced repetition part comes from periodically quizzing yourself. So there's inherently a forgetting curve and a remembering curve, if I remember correctly, from Make It Stick, which is an awesome book you should read if you're super into active recall. One of the best software applications I've used for active recall and spaced repetition is Notion. Notion is a note-taking app where you can seamlessly make your notes more interactive and flow like a textbook. And arguably, it's a perfect note-taking system for online and hybrid students. It has the ability to create databases of anything you desire, from syllabi to professor contacts and even notes. And some of the most important features include the ability to toggle, which allows you to do the active recall aspect of studying, and creating pages for taking notes, embedding code to look at an example from a computer science perspective, and many more things. as well. And you can also have subpages within the pages, which is useful and can seamlessly transfer from one part of your notes to the other. And you can even add emojis to add a personal touch to your notes and make them more interactive. And as an added bonus, Notion has a Personal Pro Premium that is completely free for university students, so I highly recommend you check Notion out. And in addition, it's available for iOS and Android along with desktop versions. In short, Notion is great for active recall implementation, and I've been using it this summer through learning things like electrical engineering fundamentals. So the previous 3 tips that I've mentioned before help to improve your standing and yourself in the course, but the next 2 tips I'll be mentioning will help you get more out of the course even as an online student. So my next tip is to go to office hours and virtual ones too if your professor offers them. They're a great way to interact with teaching assistants and professors, depending on who's teaching them, and it shows you want to learn and step out of your comfort zone. One of the mistakes I made last semester was to completely avoid virtual office hours just because I simply didn't have the time for it. Obviously, it ended up hurting me in the long run, but if I went to one of those virtual office hours, I still would have been able to clarify my doubts and even get to know the professor at a much deeper level. And when going to office hours, always make sure to prepare your questions ahead of time so you get the most out of your session with the professor. And when doing so, the professor or TA is more inclined to help and guide you through the process, and as a result, the learning will be much more fluid. And if you continue this habit of going to office hours, it's a great way to network with your professor, to potentially seek a letter of recommendation for grad school or career, or even doing research if it's possible. This is one aspect I'll be focusing more often this semester, just so I can get more out of my tough courses and also form a bonding with the professor. Speaking of bonding, find ways to socialize and learn through physical distancing. And that happens to be my final tip. With the current and ongoing pandemic, socializing and meeting new people is very difficult, but it's definitely not impossible. And just for starters, you can always join my Discord group, which is in the description below. And I've had some conversation related to college life, academics, and if you want to be a part of that conversation or just have a friendly chat, just come on and join. It's been awesome to interact with so many people, and it's just great to have these conversations from people all around the world. And in addition to my Discord group, you can always join a group chat for your specific courses. And this saved me a lot of time when it came to homework help or reviewing for exams, because if you're struggling on one topic, chances are there will be others too. And you can sort of form a camaraderie through struggling through the work and eventually figuring out the result or the answers yourself. And it also gave me an avenue to meet new people to some extent. And you can easily structure study sessions when necessary, which goes back to the previous point I made of meeting new people. Finally, many good things came out of being in a group chat. And for example, I was in a Calc 3 group chat, and one person ended up making videos going over exam walkthroughs, which turned out to be really useful for me when reviewing for the final. In addition to joining group chats, I encourage you to make a Reddit account if you haven't already. And by doing so, you can easily follow topics you're passionate about and subreddits that help you mentally and academically. And for starters, I recommend going to r/college if you're already a college student, or go to the subreddit of your school. And depending on the school, it may be big, it may not be big. I know with my school, Reddit is a really big thing, and it's actually super reliable when it comes to knowing the general situation, and this has been a primary source of any information from the school. So it's always a great idea to have a Reddit account just to be open to these things and just know that there will be people just like you. In addition to group chats and subreddits, you can always find clubs, organizations, and networks that you can be a part of, both online and hybrid. And again, it allows you to meet new people, and it's also another form of learning through experience, especially with clubs and such. And finally, if you haven't already, you should probably create a LinkedIn account for even more networking. And doing so, you can connect with more people, and even people you've worked with before or even know. And this really improves your internet presence professionally, as you can showcase the classes you're taking, the projects you've worked on, and even some other valuable skills. And in addition, you can also meet other groups on LinkedIn, which is coming to be a common trend. And I've even connected with various other groups through courses, professors, and even fellow students. As you can tell, many of these tips aren't just academic related, they're also professionally or career related. So really, to get ready for your next semester of online or hybrid classes, it's really a big deal just to get a head start on these things and to make the most out of your year, especially if you're a first year or an incoming student in college. In a situation like this, I highly encourage you to make the most out of any situation you're in, whether it be online, in-person, or hybrid classes. If you guys are watching this at the beginning of your semester, I wish you the best of luck in your studies. If you're a first year student, you got this, even though college can be a bit different right now. And hopefully with these tips, you can make the transition to college seamlessly as possible. For current students like me, I hope you gain some knowledge on how to study efficiently and how to make the most out of our limited time in this difficult situation. In short, if this video helped you at all, please leave a like and share it to someone who may need it. Once again, good luck on the upcoming semester, and I'll see you next time. Peace.